Welcome back to Marriage or Hell Nah. Fellas, pardon me, I'm still underneath the weather dealing with these allergies. But before we get going, I got to do the YouTube stuff. Shout out to all the people who've been subscribing to the channel since day one and all the new people who joined us on our journey. I definitely appreciate all the love and support we've been getting growing on this channel. Fellas, today we're going to be talking about a modern woman who has a problem with men going their own way. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Men are going their own way. And I had no idea what that meant. So I did some research and I was shocked. So in this video, we're going to talk about the community, what they're doing, what they're thinking, and why it's extremely problematic. So let me give you guys a little bit of background about the community because it is not a small community. If it was not a mainstream community, then I wouldn't be here on my channel discussing it. But it's quite large. So they call their community a manosphere, like instead of atmosphere, it's all about men. And in a nutshell, they're an anti feminist movement. It's this whole community of men who aim to separate themselves from women. And there are kind of different levels. And it's super silly because they try to parallel the matrix with like the different pills, like the red pill, the blue pill, whatever. So basically, during stage one, it's like a man who recognizes that women are a certain way and they have very misogynistic views on women, which we'll get into. But they still choose to do life with women, they still choose to settle down with a woman, but in their head, they kind of know that women are extremely harmful.
So, fellas, we're over a minute and a half in, and she's already using words such as problematic, anti-eminist. You know, I can't use that word here on YouTube. It's never safe when you use that word. Then refer to it as being silly, and then hit us with misogynistic. And we know that these insults are going to fly. But notice how she has a problem with these men deciding to do what they want to do as if they have no good reason to be doing what they want to do. But let's let her keep going because it's definitely going to get more interesting.
Now, stage two is a man who says, you know what, I'm actually going to refrain from marriage. I'm going to refrain from even settling down or having kids with a woman. Maybe I might partake in like short, casual relationships or, friendships with coworkers. But beyond that, I'm not getting in a relationship. I'm not going to have a family and so forth.
So she touched upon something right there where she mentioned that these men are saying, you know what? I don't want to have a family with you. I don't want to get married to you. I don't want to give you my commitment. And the reason why they might not be doing that is because they know that this could happen to them.
Well, how much did my divorce cost me? Well, this is a fantastic question. There's direct and there's indirect costs. Direct costs, I lost $106,000 out of my 401k retirement plan I spent 20 years contributing to. I also lost half the equity in the home, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, cash, and savings that I also spent 20 years contributing to. I also lost half of all the non-liquid assets like furniture, household goods, electronics, cars. Keep in mind, I paid for all of these. And this is in addition to financially supporting her and her/our daughter for 17 years, which is many hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm now broke, live in a 2-bedroom apartment, and have a negative net worth for the first time since I was, 25. Indirect costs, my job, my sobriety, my self-worth, my masculinity, my hope for the future, my ability to trust women again, my belief in God, my pride, my motivation, my physical health. I don't know, let's just say everything.
Then there's this extreme sense of MGTOW, and this is men who completely want to dissociate themselves from women altogether. They don't even want to communicate with any women, whether it be family, a neighbor, a friend. And right off the bat, I'm sure you guys can see why this is problematic. Instead of empowering women and being happy that women are being granted more rights when it comes to business, when it comes to politics, when it comes to all across the board, women are progressing and we've been progressing. Now, men in this community find that to be threatening, which is absurd to me because we still live in a patriarchal society. And even in 2021, being born as a man is literally giving you an advantage head start in life. So the fact that they're anti-feminist is already just so disappointing to me. Now, They have almost 33,000 members, and they have a forum containing conversations on more than 50,000 topics. The site also lists 25 video channels, and they have around 730,000 followers, and their videos have been viewed around 130 million times. Now, I even felt like I should not be giving these guys views when I was doing some research for this video, but it just had to be done so I could kind of understand how this begun, what their beliefs are, and so I could give you guys my take on it. So the fact that these men want to now say we're just going against all women tells me that they must have had some mommy issues to begin with. I have a very firm belief that if a man does not respect or love or care for his mom, then there really is no room for him to care for, love, and respect any woman for that matter.
So, fellas, she talked about empowerment. Women have never been more empowered than they are in today's society, as we know. And what are they still doing? Complaining, throwing insults at the people who built this world, right? She talked about the patriarchy. Then she talked about you don't like your mother. And fellas, don't you find that extremely problematic? I would. Think about it like this. So, fellas, what do we know? Is that women can go out here and say, hey, I'm a strong, independent woman. I don't need a man. She gets a round of applause, claps everywhere. A man goes, I'm a strong, independent man. I don't need no woman. You think he's getting the same type of energy? Not at all.
For a normal gentleman, their mom is like the queen of their hearts. And so the fact that these men can't even appreciate their mothers or can't even go as far as to be appreciative for the life that their mother gave them the opportunity for just already shows me that these men are probably coming from toxic relationships or had some sort of horrible experience with women, and now they are just pointing fingers and saying all women are the same. Now, how many times have I seen women do this where women have.
Now, fellas, we know one thing. We love our mothers to death. But women like this of today are nowhere near like how our mothers were. Our mothers were nurturing and they were motherly. These women are not motherly absolutely at all. Then she talked about these men coming from bad situations and the fact that she doesn't hear this from women. Fellas, let me know down there in the comment box of how many times you guys have heard men ain't shit, men ain't crap, I don't need no man, and then even delete all men in extreme cases. But then she wants to talk about toxic relationships. Maybe these men have had experiences of dealing with the women that they chose to be with, and then they ended up having kids with this woman. And then this is what the woman turns out to be like when they want to see their kids.
Coochie, Coochie, Punani.
And just like I stand up for women, I also stand up for men. And I am the first to, disagree with a woman who says all men are this way. No, I believe that in both genders, we have good, we have bad. So to say that all women are a certain way is already just very, very disappointing. I would like to touch on some of their beliefs and some of their points because they do have some valid points, but it still doesn't explain why they're completely dissociating from women in general. Now, their first point is that men tend to be incarcerated at a much higher level than women. So they're basically saying, why are jails and prisons full of men and not women? Well, my response is because men tend to be the ones partaking in destructive, in reckless behavior, right? How many times have you heard of female gang members? Not very often. How many times have you heard of women shooting public places like schools and movie theaters? Not very often, right? These tend to be men. I'm not saying they're always the case, but once again, we're talking about averages and majorities here. And when we look at the stats, men are at the majority when it comes to committing crimes. So this makes sense why they are incarcerated at higher levels. Their second point is that women tend to win more custody battles, and they believe that courts favor women. Now, let's be real, courts try to be as just and fair as possible. And a lot of the times, women, mothers, are winning custody battles because they show more nurturing behavior.
This she also talked about incarceration rates. Now, fellas, let's be honest. Now, if men do the crime, we already know that men are going to serve the time for what they did, and they need to go through that process of trying to rehabilitate into society. So, men need to have those jobs when they're in those fields, especially like corrections officers dealing with things like that. But, fellas, one thing that we also know is that females tend to get less time or harsher judgments for the same crimes than men. And what an example of that would be is that what about if I showed you a case where women are not even held accountable for the crimes that they commit? And one of the most awful crimes that they commit is absolutely this.
Wild and unbelievable stories here in Detroit.
This is one of them.
This is one of them. Imagine being told to pay child support for a kid that is not yours or go to jail. That was the order the state handed down to a Detroit man.
So today he turned himself in, but here's what happened when 7 Action News reporter Kim Russell went with him to court.
Carnell Alexander walked into the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice knowing in moments he could lose his freedom.
I stayed up all night, couldn't sleep, thinking about it.
Carnell is a wanted man because he refuses to do what the state orders and to pay child support for a child that DNA tests prove isn't his, a child he doesn't even know.
I haven't even had a chance to really speak to him except for one time when we took the DNA test.
Nonetheless, right now, under the law, he's a deadbeat dad. Today, he turned himself into the judge's order.
Scared because I've been before this judge before.
But this time, he had attorney Cherika Harris, who volunteered to help after seeing his story on 7 Action News. The judge said he will not go to jail for today.
Thank you. Thank Ms. Harris. And hope that we can resolve this soon.
I'm just trying to help him with his future. Though the threat of jail is on hold, it is not over. Carnell Alexander still owes more than $30,000 to the state for a child that's not his, because the mom wrote his name down because she needed to name someone in order to get welfare benefits.
And I had to put him down as the father. That was the only way I can get the system.
Now,
I'm almost homeless. I'm almost in jail. I'm out of work. My money is being threatened to be taken.
Carnell isn't just worried about how this is impacting him. He says the law needs to be changed. So when this happens, as it often does,
is the case. So what is going to happen to this criminal, this person who committed this heinous act against this man, tore this man down? And this is, fellas, what happens when you get involved with the wrong woman. And yet we just have a woman up here talking about she is mad because men are saying, nope, I am withholding my commitment. I'm not being in a relationship with you, and I'm not going to get married to you. I am happy to live out my life. And yet she has a problem with it, but yet has the nerve to talk about what men should do and what men should not do. Why don't she look at what's going on out here and try to improve the situation? And maybe some fellas will come back to the table. But until then, that's the reason why men are going their own way.
Another point that they bring up is the high levels of divorce. Now, their thinking is, why would we even marry women when most marriages end up with divorce, when they end up with women taking half of the guy's money, and so forth and so forth? Well, once again, we need to think of what has changed over the past few decades. Why are divorce rates so high? Well, because women have been granted more autonomy. So back in the day, even if your great grandmother was in a very unhappy marriage with your great grandfather, it was very unlikely that she would actually leave him. This is because our great grandmothers didn't have access to their own resources, right? It was pretty rare for our great grandmothers to have their own jobs, to have their own savings account, to have their own plan Bs and Cs. So why are there higher levels of divorce now? Well, because women do have plan B. They do have savings account.
Fellas, it's important that you understand this. So notice how she talked about our grandmothers were unhappy with our grandfathers, these artificial lies that they keep telling. Maybe, just maybe, our grandmother stood for something that today's modern woman doesn't, which is the idea of the nuclear family. They believed that they was going to stay by that man and that family because they wanted the children to be set up for success down the line. And that was their primary focus. Everything was about the child and everything was about the family. So now they go out here these days, have more freedom than anything, but yet still complain that everything is not their way. When they try to compare themselves to their grandmothers, they are nothing like their grandmothers at all, because their grandmothers stood for family, and today's modern woman is selfish. And that's the reason why men are saying, no, I don't want to be a part of that. She doesn't want to tell you that in today's time, a woman can sit up there, have a man do absolutely everything for her, build her house, provide for her, do everything to where she doesn't have to lift a finger. But then she could get around her single friends for 1 second and then say that, what, that man wants you to be at home cooking dinner for your family on Sunday? No, girl, you need to be up here going to brunch with us on Sunday. Don't you let that man tell you what to do. You should divorce him. Now you have no fault divorce, irreconcilable differences, and she's going to take everything that you worked hard for, all because she is selfish more than anything, but has the nerve to tell you that because her grandmother believed in the idea of family and supporting her children, nurturing those children to make sure that they be successful in life, that those women had less options and they were unhappy. That's the difference between today's woman and yesterday's woman. And that's the reason why men are saying enough is enough. So in closing, fellas, this is what I want you guys to know simply is this. Men put in the energy, the blood, the sweat equity in order to get the outcomes that they want. We go out here and we build the infrastructures that you guys are enjoying today, but we get no appreciation for it. So what men are saying is that, no, I am tired of the court system being involved in my life, telling me what I can and what I can't do. And I will not be with a woman that doesn't support my ideas. So that's the reason why men are saying, I'm done. Until the next time, I'm out. Peace.